So if aliens were real, I have a feeling, I have a good feeling that we would probably give them some sort of amnesty. We would probably give them some sort of benefits, like we do with the illegal immigrants. Most likely, we would give them housing. In fact, we might even give them badges and arresting power over United States citizens. More on that here on the Morning Buzz when we visit with William J. Kelly. He's a Chicago reporter, and he's got an exclusive where he does an investigation on Governor J.B. Pritzker's plan that has come to fruition now. Uh, he signed this bill where it allows migrants to become police officers with arresting powers. And he asked some migrants at the Inn of Chicago how they felt about the bill, and he got some interesting answers. So we'll be talking with that reporter, William J. Kelly, from Chicago, about that. And my question to you this morning on a Monday morning, 6:06 a.m. Are aliens real? Are aliens real? I'll give you my take here coming up in just about 10 minutes. But we've got so much to get through here on the Morning Buzz, a Monday morning, bright and early. It's busy, it's packed. I feel like last week's news cycle was just bizarre. So we had a personal chef of Obama's drowning. The circumstances around his death are curious, to say the least. And then we also had aliens. We had Obama's lawyer. No, maybe Obama's lawyer, but Joe Biden's lawyer, uh, hitting out of a bong on the porch, on his front porch there, and there were exclusive photos of that. I just feel like it was just a bizarre news week. Maybe it's because of the aliens, but I mean, everything last week was just totally crazy. Um, and that news cycle is just continuing to get crazier. And here I have it, Kamala Harris. I don't think she realizes that she exposes the Bidenomics failure by saying how close most Americans are to bankruptcy. She goes on the record and says that most Americans are close to bankruptcy. And I don't think she realizes, that's because of you guys. That's because of the Biden Harris administration there. So we're going to take a listen to Kamala Harris next. Joe Biden on Friday. It was a news dump that came at like 6 o'clock on Friday. He finally acknowledges his other granddaughter. So all this week, I've been talking this past week, last week, it was just constantly, I was talking about how in the media, MSNBC specifically, they were trying to say that Joe Biden was some sort of family guy, that the reason why, he's talking with his son Hunter about his business dealings, and the reason why this is all it's just because he's a good dad, and there's nothing he wouldn't do for his son Hunter Biden. And I said, look, showering with your daughter, Ashley Biden, and her talking about how it made her uncomfortable in her diary, makes you not such a family guy. You're not a family man, Joe Biden. You're a terrible family man, like you are the president of the United States. Not to mention, you don't even acknowledge your seventh granddaughter. But apparently, on Friday night, he released some sort of statement. And then he releases this statement, so, naturally, a reporter, Peter Doocy of Fox News, because who else, right? What other reporter would ask about her after this statement was released? So Peter Doocy does journalism, actual journalism, and he asks about the daughter, and Joe Biden freaks out and he gets snippy with Peter Doocy. He didn't call him an SOB this time. Last time Peter Doocy asked a question that Joe Biden didn't like, he called Peter Doocy an SOB. Later, I will be talking about Ron DeSantis hitting back at a reporter pushing this Florida African American history lie. And he just says, look, to the reporter, he goes, have you read it? Have you read the Don't Say Gay bill? What so-called Don't Say Gay bill? Have you read the Parental Rights and Education bill? It's called that, okay? Have you read it? Have you read the Florida African American history curriculum? And Ron DeSantis, he is falling behind Vivek Ramaswamy very, very quickly. If he were to do more of this, hitting back hard on reporters and being the angry DeSantis that we all know and love, then I think he would see a bump in the polls. But he's not going to, because he's trying to pitch himself as charismatic, some sort of charismatic Donald Trump 2.0, and it's not working for him. So all of this and more ahead on the Morning Buzz. As always, I am live in studio. You can see me on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Twitter. I'm everywhere on the social medias. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. That really helps me out, guys. If I get to 1,000 subscribers, that's big news for me. So go ahead, subscribe to the YouTube channel. All you have to do is type in your search bar. It's Conservative Cat, real easy. Hit the like button, smash the Rumble button, because I am also on Rumble, because screw Tube. I would love to just be exclusively on Rumble. However, people use YouTube and can't get away from that. So you can also text into the show. That's 309-451-9299. Like and share the video out with your normie friends. Let's get into it, Kamala Harris. I like to pull this number out because um, it just speaks to how Kamala Harris, when she starts a sentence, I don't think she knows where she's going. And she thinks everything's, yeah, is just so profound. When she speaks, it's like it needs to be etched in stone. Here's Kamala Harris. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
It is a reflection of our moment and our time, right? And present culture is the way we express how we're feeling about the moment. And we should always find times to express how we feel about the moment that is a reflection of joy, because
Mhm.
it comes in the morning. we have to find ways to also express the way we feel about the moment, in terms of just having language and a connection to how people are experiencing life. And I think about it in that way too.
Is she high? Like, seriously, is she high? She just does not sound like a normal human being. In fact, she kind of sounds like Michael Scott from The Office. I'm a big The Office. I like, my ringtone on my cell phone is from The Office. The dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Michael Scott. This is a clip from the TV series, and I love what he has to say here because it just reminds me of Kamala Harris. Here we go. An improvisation. That's Michael Scott. And I had to share that with you guys because whenever she starts talking, I think about that line from The Office. Sometimes I start a sentence and I just don't know where it's going, so I have to have an improv conversation. It may surprise you to know this, but Kamala Harris is actually lying about the Florida education standards. That's what she did last week. But that's not the only thing she did last week. I want to talk about Biden's wingman here, who at one point in 2019, 2020 called Joe Biden a racist and said that he probably sexually assaulted his aide. What she's doing this past week on Friday, she came out and she threw Bidenomics under the bus. Bidenomics. And she threw it under the bus and said that it was basically a colossal failure. Now, the thing is, folks, I don't think she noticed that she exposed uh, Bidenomics as a big failure. Uh, Kamala Harris gave a speech at this pro-abortion forum in Iowa about how many Americans are suffering, while forgetting who has been in charge for the past 3 years. She and Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, claimed that Americans are in such a terrible place that a $400 unexpected expense could send them into bankruptcy. And I don't think she's wrong here, but let's take a listen to exactly what Kamala Harris said about Americans and how they are $400, like a $400 emergency from bankruptcy. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Most Americans are a $400 unexpected expense away from bankruptcy. Most Americans are a $400 unexpected expense away from bankruptcy.
So there you have it. That's her words, not mine. Okay. Um, I see. Okay. So, Vice President of the United States is saying that under her and Grandpa's watch, after all the stimulus bills that bribed Americans and the Inflation Reduction Act that didn't really reduce inflation but raised taxes rather on the American people, most Americans, despite all that, most Americans are $400 away from going bankrupt. 3 years of Biden Harris. And Harris, while campaigning for Biden Harris, says that most Americans can't afford to get a flat tire or something like that. The vice president of the United States thinks that this is a reason to reelect her. Come on, Bidenomics sucks. We're not even really getting into the reality of just how bad Bidenomics sucks. Here, I've got the numbers for you, and I'll flash them on my screen here for you on YouTube. You can always be a part of the show by commenting. Bidenomics truly, truly sucks. And she didn't even get into the nitty gritty of it here, so I will. 56.3% of Americans disapprove of Biden's handling of the economy. Number two, inflation is 2 times higher than when Joe Biden took office. Adjusted for inflation, annual incomes drastically decreased under Joe Biden. The jobs that came back from the pandemic don't count as new jobs. Actually, unemployment ticked up in the latest jobs report with 440,000 newly unemployed people. So, Bidenomics, the reality of Bidenomics is that it sucks. And she knows it sucks. She says that most Americans are $400 away from going bankrupt. She knows it. 3 years of Bidenomics have, according to Kamala Harris, her own words, 3 years of Bidenomics have left most Americans $400 away from complete economic failure. This is the Democrat message for 2024. This is what they're trying to say. Vote for us. If not, the GOP will leave you only $300 away from bankruptcy. I don't know. Like, it's you guys. You're the reason why Americans can't afford anything. All right, I do have to take a break, but when we come back, I want to get into Joe Biden. And Friday is what's known as Take Out the Trash Day in White House politics. I'm going to explain what that means, but there was a Friday news dump. And that happened around 6 p.m. Central Time on Friday. And Joe Biden, he acknowledged his 7th granddaughter. Wow. Uh, I will be parsing through this on the other side here. This is the Morning Buzz. You can always be a part of the show by texting in to 309-451-9299 or see me live in the studio on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, and Twitter. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. If you're watching, go ahead and smash that like button. When we come back, we will be talking about Joe Biden's 7th granddaughter that he officially recognized and, officially acknowledged, not really recognized. And he still hasn't gone to go visit her. Oh, sorry. Okay. So, one thing I wanted to ask you guys, if you're watching, smash the like button and throw into the comments section, are aliens real? Why or why not? So I kind of have an interesting take on this, and people are going to think that I'm a conspiratorial nut, but I don't care. Let me get my tinfoil hat out and really just let it sparkle here. So, no, I don't think aliens are real. However, I do think the government is trying to build like this artificial intelligence. They're trying to build non-human life forms and things like that, robots even. And they're trying to get us to adopt the idea that aliens are real. And I have a very specific reason why I think that the government wants us to think that aliens are real. So I am an evangelical Christian. which means that I believe the Bible, the basic instructions before leaving Earth. That is the acronym I like to use. And I believe everything that it says, basically. I don't think that it's metaphor. So, for example, Noah and the ark, right? I believe that actually happened. Jonah being swallowed by a whale, I believe that actually happened. These aren't metaphors. These aren't, folk tales. They are real, supernatural instances happening when the power of God is invoked. So, in Revelation, in the end times, what I believe as an evangelical Christian is that there will be the rapture of a church, where the church, if you profess Jesus Christ to be Lord and Savior, and that means a few different things, but if you are a Christian who believes Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior, then you will be raptured for 7 years during the tribulation. And then Jesus comes back on a white stallion and saves the world. Again, he comes back for a second time. I believe that as an evangelical Christian. So I think that the government, and they probably, like, let's be real here, the people testifying in those committee hearings, right? I don't think that they know about the rapture. I don't think that they read the Bible. However, the forces working within them, there are, I believe, demonic forces that work within people. Not that they're not that they're demons, but I believe that there are evil forces that work through people, and they don't know it, right? They wouldn't know if the evil spirit is working through them to try to push through this. But the evil spirit, there's this rise of the Antichrist that's supposed to happen. Read Revelation, right, in the Bible if you are like completely lost on what I'm talking about. But um, the Antichrist rises to power, and there has to be some sort of explanation as to why all these Christians are gone one day, because one day we'll be raptured, and that's the beginning of the tribulation, where 7 years of just hell on earth, actually hell on earth, uh, I mean, there's just going to be havoc for 7 years for those who didn't profess Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. I believe that Christians will be raptured and will be all confused, right? There's going to be planes falling down. I highly recommend the film Left Behind with Nicolas Cage in it. So there has to be some sort of explanation as to why those Christians were raptured without alluding to the Bible, because that would be a big, big no no. You can't talk about the Bible as the Antichrist and point people to the Bible, because then people would understand that uh, that Jesus is coming back to save them. And he doesn't want that. He wants to be the one who is the savior of the world, right? The Antichrist. Um, so I think alien abduction is going to be their explanation as to why all these Christians are just gone one day. And there's evil forces working through these people to try to create some sort of alien life form, or try to create the illusion that there is some sort of alien life form. Now, I've also heard that they could be testing some highly um, like, eh, dangerous military grade weapons, right? That they're testing those, and that they need, um, some sort of explanation of, aliens in order to test these things. They're gonna be flying things and all of that. I've heard that, which is a possibility. But your thoughts, if you're watching right now, go ahead, throw into the comments section. Do you believe in aliens? And will aliens come and abduct us all? Like, what's your take on the aliens? That was dominating the news cycle last week, and I just don't believe them. You can't get me to believe them. I think that it's all smoke and mirrors. So we're going to be back, and I'm going to be talking about Joe Biden and how he finally recognized or acknowledged his seventh granddaughter. Here we go. Ron DeSantis hitting back hard at a reporter trying to push this idea that this Florida African American history curriculum is racist. And Kamala Harris was trying to push out this lie that the curriculum says that slavery is good. The curriculum does not say that, does not say that slavery benefited slaves. Uh, um, Ron DeSantis just hits back at this reporter hard, and we need more of that from Ron DeSantis if he is to be the runner-up. I foresee him Vivek Ramaswamy. He surpassed Ron DeSantis um, in the polling, right, in his home state of Ohio. I foresee that Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be the runner up here in the coming months if Ron DeSantis does not do a complete overhaul of his campaign and evaluate uh, ho- how he's being so inauthentic. Ron DeSantis just isn't being himself. So I love these rare moments where we actually get to see Ron DeSantis be himself. Ron DeSantis is an angry guy, rightfully so, right? He's dealing with the woke culture. He has had to pretty much create a beacon of freedom down there in Florida, and he's done this almost single-handedly. He has a great state house, though. He has great state legislators and senators, right? He has lawmakers in his corner, so that helps. Here in the state of Illinois, we could never because the Democrats have a super majority. But Ron DeSantis is an angry dude. He's an angry guy, and you can see that when he lashes out at reporters like this, but he does it so well. And I think that Ron DeSantis is trying to come off as some sort of charismatic, funny guy like a Donald Trump. And it's just not working for him because it's coming off as inauthentic. And I mean, it's just not working with the voters. At some point, you have to read the room. And I think Vivek Ramaswamy does much better at reading the room. But Ron DeSantis hitting back at this reporter for this African American history lie that Kamala Harris was actually pushing out there. And people in the GOP are pushing out there, like Byron Donalds. And I just don't agree with that. Um, I get that it's a GOP primary and there's nothing you can do. And believe me, I am not a fan of Ron DeSantis so much anymore when you start to read about what he's done as far as raising insurance premiums on people in the state of Florida and siding with big insurance companies. There's plenty to not like Ron DeSantis over his big donors, right? Now, this Florida curriculum and this lie that says that in the curriculum that somehow slavery was beneficial to slaves, that's not what the curriculum says. It's a straight up lie. And shame on anybody who tries to push that lie out there as some sort of truth. It's misinformation. All right. So I do want to get into Joe Biden. We're going to do this story and then we'll visit with um, my favorite reporter, Chicago reporter William J. Kelly. He's going to be talking with us about the migrants who are now going to be police officers with arresting powers over citizens. So, non citizens arresting citizens. And he asked some migrants at the Inn of Chicago how they felt about this bill that was recently signed by Governor J.B. Pritzker, and he did some investigations on that. So, we'll visit with him. But first, let's talk about Joe Biden and this Friday news dump. So, Friday is what's known as Take Out the Trash Day in White House politics. Now, when an administration has news that they don't want the people to pay attention to, they release it at about 5 o'clock on a Friday evening. And this Friday's dump, the White House acknowledged that Joe Biden does, in fact, have a seventh granddaughter, which they released via a supermarket tabloid. Basically. So they put out like a little tabloid out there and they said, Joe Biden, seventh granddaughter has a seventh granddaughter and shocking. Now, to further illustrate what Joe Biden and his White House um, do on Fridays, a lot of the time when they don't want the American people to know about a certain topic or if they are not wanting to release the news. This is from a film in 1999. It was called The West Wing. It's a TV series, and I think that it's very appropriate. Let's take a listen here to the film called The West Wing, or it's a TV series, and they just explain what taking out the trash is perfectly. So let's take a listen. Here we go.
Take out the trash day.
Friday.
I mean, what is it?
Any stories we have to give the press that we're not wild about, we give them all in a lump on Friday.
Why do you do it in a lump?
Instead of one at a
I
time?
think you'd want to spread them out.
They've got X column inches to fill, right?
Yes.
They're going to fill them no matter what.
Yes.
So if we give them one story, that story's X column inches.
You give them 5 stories.
A fifth the size.
Why do you do it on Friday?
Because no one reads the paper on Saturday.
You guys are real populous, aren't you?
Salads for CJ.
There you have it, folks. That's from the 1999 TV series. But yes, this came at 6 o'clock, actually, Central on Friday, where Joe Biden, he's claiming that it's not a political issue, that it's a family matter, and that Jill wants the best for all of their grandchildren, including Navy. So this is what he said, and he finally acknowledged that he had the 7th grandchild. And they released a statement, actually. So they said Navy in their statement. One of the president's 7 grandchildren has recently been subject to headlines as Republicans have criticized the president for previously touting his 6 grandchildren. It's not a political issue, it's a family matter. President Joe Biden's statements continues, and it says, Jill and I only want the best for all of our grandchildren, including Navy. So he actually acknowledges Navy, who, you know, was born of a former stripper and Hunter Biden's illegitimate daughter, I guess, or, like they weren't married or whatever. Um, it should have been a family issue, and it would have been a family issue had Joe Biden not made it a political issue when he decided to run on what a great papa and what a great grandpa he is. He made that the cornerstone of his election campaign in 2020. This is a video proving that he made the fact that he was such a family man a cornerstone of his 2020 campaign. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
They said they miss you. I miss you too, Angel. Okay, I'm heading home now. I'll call you when I get back to Delaware. I love you, baby. Bye-bye. She's an incredible kid.
So that was some sort of campaign video where he is on the phone with one of his granddaughters. And earlier this week, last week, right, MSNBC, they were dispatched to repeat the old phrase, Biden's only crime is loving his son Hunter talking point, right? They put that talking point out there all last week. And then they even went as far as to say that the president makes it a point to speak to all of his grandchildren every single day, even though we know it was complete crap because get this, Joe Biden, he was asked by Peter Doocy, hey, our we've got this statement here about Navy. Are you going to go see your granddaughter? Naturally, he doesn't say anything nice about Navy. He just kind of lashes out at Peter Doocy. Joe Biden does. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Private matter, I have no comment.
But
only you would ask that. You're a good man. You're a good man.
Thank you guys. This is all
Classy.
the time we have.
There you are. Never forget Joe Biden's first reaction when he was asked to comment on his daughter or granddaughter. So that was Peter Doocy, and he lashed out at, or that he was lashing out. Joe Biden was lashing out at Peter Doocy over this granddaughter. So he finally acknowledges her. Prior to Friday's tasteless news dump, Joe Biden only acknowledged having like 6 grandchildren, and he actually has 7. Okay, but the 7th was from his son Hunter, and yes, that Hunter Biden knocking up his former assistant. There was a court case where Hunter, the president of the United States' son, had actually refused to pay child support and let his daughter be not acknowledged as a Biden. He didn't want her to have the family name. It's been worked out where he is going to pay some sort of child support, and she is forbidden to use the Joe Biden last name. Reports say that the granddaughter is 6. She likes playing with her cousin. She's just learned to ride a bike, and she wants to be a hunter like her mom. She wants to go out and hunt. And it's just so sad. Like they try to slip this, acknowledgement of Joe Biden's granddaughter. Joe Biden finally acknowledges her. And then he's asked about it, lashes out, and they try to slip this in at 6 o'clock on a Friday, this news dump about Navy being acknowledged as some sort of granddaughter. So joining me right now, you know him, you love him, the Chicago reporter, William J. Kelly. He's Emmy Award winning, and he is a reporter that Lori Lightfoot just can't stand. And he's actually got a lawsuit against Lori Lightfoot. But William J. Kelly, tell me a little bit about that lawsuit, actually. I wanted to know some sort of update on that if you had one.
Well, thank you, Kat. God bless you. We are back in federal court this week on Wednesday, to be specific. And, you know, I put the entire lawsuit online because the truth has nothing to hide. ReporterWilliamJKelly.com is where you can find the lawsuit. It's a classic freedom of speech lawsuit, which means it's not just my lawsuit, it's your lawsuit. It's anyone's lawsuit who wants to be able to speak or think freely in the United States of America. That's the other thing that people need to understand. Lori Lightfoot took my media credential, my official City of Chicago media credential away because I was asking her questions, if you remember, and if you go to that website, that ReporterWilliamJKelly.com, you'll see videos, countless, oddly, examples of me asking her basic questions at City Hall, Chicago City Hall, and her absolutely going berserk, yelling at me, calling me names, derogatory statements, etc., against me. And it was clearly hurting her reelection campaign. She revoked my media credential. We've been in federal court ever since. It hasn't stopped me, thanks to you and the Daily Mail and some other outlets. I'm still reporting from Chicago. As you well know, last month we were talking about the fact that there was a bill on the governor's desk to make migrants police officers, and sure enough, he signed it on Friday. And it's a little shocking to me that, well, it's not shocking. I'll be perfectly honest. It doesn't shock me one bit that we have politicians in the state of Illinois, Democrat and Republican, by the way, who are acting like they're surprised by this. I see, Republican politicians tweeting on Friday, "You're not going to believe this." No, I do believe it because I was talking about it on Cat Show a month ago.
Yes. And in fact, I'm going to play this clip here for us, William J. Kelly, of you going around asking some migrants about their thoughts.
Right.
It was at the Inn of Chicago, and
yes,
the thoughts about the bill, right?
It is a plush luxury hotel right off the Michigan Mile, the Magnificent Mile, right? In downtown Chicago. John F. Kennedy Jr. used to stay there when he was in town, and now it's a migrant shelter. I've tried to go inside and interview. They won't let me in. What's going on here, Kat?
Yeah, let's take a listen to who you were talking to. Let's play it. Here we go.
Would you like to become my police officer? There's an opportunity in Chicago, especially for females of color. I'm reporter William J. Kelly in Chicago. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is about to sign a new bill allowing migrants to become police officers. No one really knows what that would look like, so I've decided to return to the site of my original viral video, the plush Inn of Chicago, right off the Magnificent Mile, to ask the migrants themselves how they feel about the bill. Hello. Hi, where are you from? Where are you from? Okay. Governor J.B. Pritzker is signing a new bill that would allow migrants to become police officers. How do you feel about the bill? Have you had a chance to read the bill? He read the bill? Have you had a chance to read the bill? Hi, where are you from? Oh, I see. Governor Pritzker of Illinois is about to sign a new bill allowing migrants to become police officers? How do you feel about that?
No.
Where are you from?
I speak English.
Governor Pritzker of Illinois is about to sign a new bill allowing.
Okay, so
Yeah.
William
It
J.
goes
Kelly.
on and on and on.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting there is that a lot of them don't even speak English. None of them really read the bill. And like, I don't foresee them being able to read this bill, understand it, let alone become police officers and understand the arresting powers and what comes with being a police officer in the United States. They're
Right.
all from Venezuela. They can't even speak English. How are they going to police the streets of the United States where majority speaking, right? I mean, and it'd be great if we had bilingual officers. I'm not saying that. However, I doubt that they understand, civics, the law, and
Our Constitution.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
basic. I would be shocked if they even knew that they could vote here in the
Yeah.
United States at the age of 18.
Yeah, we have, it really, I'm a reporter. My goal is to report the facts, who, what, where, when, how, why.
Mhm.
I'm also a lifelong Illinoisan. I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago. I know that Chicago has a lot of problems. This is not helping. Okay, this is not helping. It breaks my heart to see what's happening in the city of Chicago right now. I know a lot of people in your area who call me and tell me, look, it's not fair that what happens in Chicago completely dominates our election and our issues and our representation. I say, well, yeah, it's going to get worse. And as goes Chicago, goes not only the state of Illinois but the Midwest. So it really hurts that we try to report these things, Kat, you and I, and really just you and I, essentially. And you would think that there would be some political officials, Democrat or Republican, that would say, "What? That is outrageous. Is that even true?" And then they'd research it, and then they would actually act upon it. But no, we reported that video that you just played.
In June.
I posted that on Twitter. I don't know. You can check.
I saw it. It was in June.
Yeah.
June.
So this is months ago, and there hasn't been a single Democrat or Republican party official or candidate, even a candidate, who has come out and said this can't be allowed. This is the end of law enforcement. Mm-hmm. I don't think for example, you want to hear just a ridiculous example of this. Okay, this is just one of, unfortunately, hundreds, if not thousands, of ridiculous examples in the city of Chicago. A gentleman had his backpack stolen. So he traced, because he had his phone in his backpack, he was able to trace it to a police station. Where did he find it? In Blue Island, which is a south suburb of Chicago. The backpack was on a pile of quote unquote belongings of migrants that were sleeping in the police station. So, I mean, who does that? Who steals a backpack and then brings it to a police station? Somebody who has zero respect for law and order, zero respect for the police, zero respect for our laws. And now Pritzker wants to give them guns and badges? Are you kidding me? This is, I'm sorry, Kat, but
yeah, no, I know it's it blows my mind away. And I see stories like the peacekeepers, right? And that's a statewide, this is all statewide. So Bloomington Normal, this is not exclusive to Chicago. This is, Bloomington Normal immigrants. I see them on the street corners sometimes, right? Begging for money. They even have PayPal app where you can pay them, cash apps and things like that. But there's also these peacekeepers where they're, either ex-cons, and they're given a vest, a high-vis vest, where they can go out and try to rationalize or try to counsel other hardened criminals. Right. So, I mean, we're just living in clown world.
And they're getting paid. And we're paying them. Here's the thing, Kat. I don't have to convince you. it really hurts that as a lifelong Illinoisan, as a patriotic American, okay, as somebody who actually was raised to believe that America is a sovereign country, I don't know if that can get me, in trouble to, canceled or something to say that out loud now. But I just can't believe the lack of leadership in Illinois. That Pritzker has been doing this now, honestly, for a number of years. The lockdowns, the looting. There wasn't a word other than maybe one or two, people who were, literally running against Pritzker. They were treated like they were somehow the problem by even Republican Party officials in the state of Illinois. It's really something has simply got to change in the state of Illinois. Are you going to be at the state fair in a couple of weeks?
I might be. I typically go for Republican Day.
Yeah, we should probably have some kind of our own little citizen convention or something at the state fair. I will be there myself, trying to get interviews on both Democrat and Republican Day. So maybe we should try and do that together. Maybe the two of us, we might be able to get the truth out of somebody. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And what an opportunity to try to get them pinned down, right?
Yeah.
And try to get them to
Why
answer.
why aren't they doing anything?
Yeah. And it's all against federal law. I think Chapin Rose, a senator, he was out there on the Senate floor trying to get this to not pass, but it was him and maybe the Freedom Caucus in Illinois, but that was
right.
it.
There you go.
It.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's 7.
Exactly right. What really, I think that if you really want to know how duplicitous Pritzker is, Governor Pritzker is on this issue, this is a man who wants to protest the police, our police, our who wants to defund the police, who wants to say that the police in 2020, I'm sorry, but I saw him with my own eyes. He can go ahead and deny, and I'll ask him on Democrat Day at the state fair if I have to. I'll ask him myself. God only knows what will happen to me. But I will say this: I saw him marching around with his fist in the air while Chicago was being looted, while windows were being broken, while I had to walk on broken glass to get to the store to find out that the store had been, in my neighborhood had been broken into and looted. Okay, and he was marching around with his fist in the air, protesting the police. Well, now he wants migrants to be police. So he doesn't like Americans being. He doesn't like American citizens who are police officers, but he thinks migrants are going to do a better job of policing America than American citizens. I'm sorry, Kat. I don't think that this is just simple incompetence. Okay, I think there's something else going on here, and I'm going to try to get to the bottom of it in Springfield in a couple of weeks. I hope that you'll join me.
I'll join you, William J. Kelly, and we've got to take a break, but it was so nice talking with you again. You have a great rest of your Monday. And folks, don't forget reporterwilliamjkelly.com, and you can find him on Twitter as well. Just look up the hashtag Citizen Kelly. Hashtag Citizen Kelly. Thanks, William.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we are going to be back, folks, and I have a story. Speaking about crime, a Good Samaritan nearly killed in Chicago. That's next. All right, folks. Good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining me on the live stream. If you're watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. A great conversation I had with William J. Kelly. He's a Chicago reporter. We are going to plan and try to pin some of these politicians down to get them to answer specifically for this, because this is against federal law. This is against our Constitution. Arming non-citizens with badges and guns and arresting powers over United States citizens is something in complete clown world, and they need to answer for it. Speaking of clown world, prosecutors say a Chicago man shot and nearly killed a good Samaritan who was trying to de-escalate an argument he was having with a meter maid in a parking lot. So, this alleged victim, shot in the face, abdomen, arm, and side, has undergone 4 surgeries and remains hospitalized. Um, as the accused man, his name's William Hunter, 54, appeared in bond court on the charge of attempted first degree murder. So we'll see if he makes it out of surgery. I don't know. You get shot in the arm, in the abdomen, the face. I mean, I don't know if this guy's going to make it. That might go up from first degree murder to, or attempted first degree murder to first degree murder. Okay. So this guy, I guess, was in some sort of fight. The ticket writer was scoping out this parking lot, and she wrote tickets. And I guess this guy got into a fight with an alderman, and this guy, or with uh, the ticket writer, and um, the the Good Samaritan was trying to help de-escalate that situation where these two people began fighting. The man got out of his car, continued to try to calm Hunter down, but Hunter pushed backwards with 2 hands. He said Hunter punched the victim in the face, and then the 2 men began fighting. Hunter eventually stepped back, pulled out a gun from his hoodie pocket, and shot the victim several times. So, yeah, she was writing tickets, this meter maid, and um, he was yelling derogatory names and yelling at her for writing tickets. And he was a good Samaritan. So I have another story about Good Samaritans, and I think that we need more of them, but not in Chicago, because in Chicago you're going to die if you try to be a Good Samaritan, because that's a war zone. Don't try to be a hero. Just get out of Chicago, okay? If you're a good person who lives in Chicago, don't try to be the hero. You're just going to wind up dead. So I've got this monster who actually was trying to steal, and it's gone viral now. This 87-year-old woman's purse, and he wound up eating pavement because of a Good Samaritan, and he saved the day. But it's stories like this don't really happen in Chicago, um, because you'll wind up dead. Now, I'm not too sure where this took place at. I know it wasn't Chicago, I don't think. But it was going viral on TikTok because of Jason Aldean's Try That in a Small Town. And, there's lyrics that talk about, steal a woman or an old woman's purse or something like that, or punch an old lady in the face, try that kind of stuff in a small town, see what happens. You're going to find good Samaritans who have other people's backs. In Chicago, there's no sense of community. That's not a small town. You don't want to try to be the hero in a big city like that, and don't pull this stuff, because this guy, he was trying to help out this meter maid who was being yelled at by this guy, and he wound up with bullets just sprayed into him. So, um, we'll talk about both those stories coming up here, and then also a Democratic representative is eyeing a primary, or eyeing um, the Democrat primary. Joe Biden, right? He's running in 2024, so is RFK Jr. I think they're worried, and the DNC is running this new guy. His name's Phillips. He's a Democrat congressman, I think it is, and he's out of the state of Minnesota. Now, I think what they're trying to do is pull some votes from RFK Jr. because they are freaking out. Also about RFK Jr. And if you guys are watching right now, please go ahead, smash that like button. It would really help me out. Share this out with your friends. RFK Jr. was actually denied Secret Service detail, even though there's a law that extends Secret Service detail to primary candidates for the president of the United States. The reason why that law actually exists is because of RFK, Robert F. Kennedy, his dad, being assassinated. So the law kind of exists because JFK and RFK were both assassinated. JFK while he was president and RFK while he was a candidate for the presidency. So they're denying him Secret Service detail, and I think they're worried because I think he's polling like 20%, so 70-20. Joe Biden 70. They're worried. They're starting to really freak out. So that's why I think this fellow from Minnesota has been thrown into the race. I don't think that he's anti-Joe Biden. I think that he's a part of the Democrat Party, and they want to steal votes away from RFK Jr. and split that moderate vote on the Democrat side because they're worried. Not that, and I don't even understand why they're worried because they have something called superdelegates, right? And the superdelegate system, in and of itself, is going to guarantee that RFK Jr. is not the nominee. But still, this just goes to show you the lengths at which they are going to try to squash any kind of popularity or any kind of excitement surrounding RFK Jr. Here we go. Woo! Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. A man shot in Chicago, nearly killed. And he was just being a good Samaritan who was trying to de-escalate an argument that somebody was having with a meter maid. So I want to talk about this because there's this song out there, and you might have heard it. It's called "Try That in Small Town." By the way, our sister station 107.7 and 92.1 The Bull is the only country radio station playing that song in town and in central Illinois, really, because other radio stations refuse to play the song because they're woke. So be sure to listen to Try That in a Small Town on 107.7 The Bull, our sister station. So I've got this story here about Chicago Good Samaritan who tried to de-escalate that argument, and he just got, basically showered with a bunch of bullets. And I've got another story where in a small town, right, you had somebody actually be a good Samaritan and stop a man from robbing a elderly woman. So I'm going to be talking about both these stories and about Jason Aldean's song "Try That in a Small Town" next here on the Morning Buzz. It's 6:58 a.m. So we will be chatting about all of that. Plus, I've got a story about RFK Jr. and how the Secret Service is not going to provide him any kind of protection. Very tired this morning. If you're watching, go ahead and uh, like and subscribe. So here we go. RFK Jr. is not going to get Secret Service. So there's a law that extends Secret Service protection to presidential candidates if they are of some sort of high profile and if they are a major presidential candidate. He's literally the poster child of why presidential candidates need protection. Okay, so the law was actually created because his father, RFK, was assassinated while he was a candidate. So on Friday, RFK Jr. said that he was denied Secret Service protection, resource to all major presidential candidates since 1968, when Kennedy's father was assassinated during his campaign for the nation's highest office the presidency. So after numerous requests, we have him being denied. Now he did his homework, and I mean, it was hundreds of pages long. His really ask for the Secret Service detail. After numerous requests to the Department of Homeland Security, um, Kennedy said that the Secretary, Alejandro Mayorkas, handed down the official verdict telling Kennedy that protection was not warranted at this time. So there you have it. It was a 67-page report um, from the world's leading protection forum detailing unique and well-established security and safety risks aside from commonplace death threats. So he's gotten death threats, RFK Jr. has, and he's running for the presidents of the United States. But he went above and beyond just the commonplace death threats, obviously. So he said protection is typically provided to major presidential and vice presidential candidates as well as their families within 120 days of the general election. At the time, Kennedy submitted his request. So this is a law that's been put in place to where you can actually get this if you were to run for presidency or the vice presidency and be a high profile type candidate. Um, and he was denied this. The Secret Service has, quote, no role in determining who is to be considered a major candidate. Instead, the decision is left to Mayorkas with the help of the Speaker of the House and Minority Whip, Senate Majority Leader, and Senate Minority Leader, and one additional member chosen by that committee. So this was a shock to me. I can't believe that they did not. I mean, the law is basically exists, the expansion going to candidates because of RFK Jr.'s family being assassinated. So he's literally the poster child for this law um, and its existence. And like, if anybody was going to get Secret Service protection, it should be RFK Jr. And that both his dad and brother, and his dad and uncle were assassinated. RFK Jr. is freaking them out. This is also why I have here in my news desk a report saying that there's going to be a Democrat. His name's Dean Phillips. I'm sure that they are encouraging him to primary Joe Biden for the Democrat nomination in 2024 because they want to split the moderate vote. So he's in on it. Dean Phillips, he knows that he is not going to have any kind of chance in this 2024 presidential election. It's kind of late to announce, too. So they are going to try to um, get this moderate Democrat vote to split. So people who are so anti-Joe Biden, those blue dog Democrats who actually have common sense, they are going to be voting for RFK Jr. But maybe some people don't like the anti-vax rhetoric that RFK Jr. And one thing about RFK Jr. is that he's got the studies to back it up. Okay, he makes persuasive argument against uh, vaccines. Okay, it's very persuasive, if anything. Um, and what they're going to try to do is split the Democrat vote by throwing this Dean Phillips character in there. So that way it's more like 70-10-10. Because right now, RFK Jr. pulling like 20% and Joe Biden pulling 70. So we'll see. A little bit later in the show, we will be talking about Ron DeSantis hitting back hard at a reporter for trying to push this lie out there that the Florida African American history curriculum, that this lie that it says that in the curriculum, slavery was actually beneficial to slaves. That is not true. If you were to read the actual curriculum, it does not say that anywhere. Ron DeSantis pushing back hard against this reporter, and he just gets angry and he says, "Have you read it? Have you read it?" And I love Ron DeSantis when he gets angry because that's his authentic self. Ron DeSantis is an angry guy. He's just angry. And that's the draw to Ron DeSantis because he doesn't mess around with these reporters. And he's angry that parents don't have rights in education anymore. He's angry about the woke infiltration that has happened in his home state and in the United States. And I think he really needs to focus on his authentic self and putting that guy out there, putting the angry guy out there. Ron DeSantis is not like this charismatic Donald Trump 2.0. He's just not. And to try to run himself as some sort of Donald Trump 2.0 is hurting him so much to the point that Vivek Ramaswamy is actually getting close to being the runner up in this GOP primary that's very crowded. So he is winning. I think in Ohio, he's polling higher than Ron DeSantis in his home state. That's Vivek Ramaswamy. So we are going to be getting to that because it's beautiful the way Ron DeSantis pushes back against this reporter. And I'm very upset actually with some GOP members. Byron Donalds, I get it, right? It's a GOP primary, but to sit there and try to side with Kamala Harris and trying to say that this lie is truth, that this Florida African American history curriculum says that slavery was actually beneficial to slaves. That's not at all what it says. It's really misinformation. And I would hope that most GOP members see this for what it is. And it's just them trying to attack true American history, true African American history, and history surrounding slave states. So we are going to be getting to that. But first, I was telling you a little bit about Chicago. There's this Good Samaritan who just was sprayed with a bunch of bullets after he tried to de-escalate an argument that this guy was having with a meter maid. And the reason why I wanted to talk about that story today was because there's this viral video going out there. So it's making its rounds. And this is when this monster of a man tried to steal this 87-year-old woman's purse, and he wound up eating a pavement. Like he just, because this Good Samaritan guy saved the day. And this video is going viral. And in the video, there's some background music. And it's the Try That in a Small Town. Jason Aldean's Try That in a Small Town song. So I'm going to talk about these two stories here. And then next, I do want to talk about the Democrat representative who is now eyeing down Joe Biden in this primary. There is somebody new in the Democrat primary. At least he's talking about running. Now, he's been dubbed as a more moderate pick over President Joe Biden. I think that the DNC, the Democrat Party, they have thrown this Minnesota Congress critter out there to try to split the vote between RFK and Dean Phillips, is his name, the new Democrat primary challenger. They don't want RFK Jr. to primary Ron DeSantis. They denied him Secret Service protection. Even though he has a right, he's honestly the poster child for the Secret Service protection. I don't know how they denied him this Secret Service protection, but they did. RFK Jr. is not getting Secret Service protection, although the law that expands it to candidates, to major presidential candidates, was actually kind of created because his dad, RFK Jr.'s dad, was assassinated as a candidate. So we're going to be talking about all of that, more and more ahead on the Morning Buzz. As always, I'm here live in the studio. You can see me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. So be sure to head over there, subscribe, follow the channels, and share this podcast out with your normie friends, because believe me, they need to hear a little something to wake up. Right? Let's let's start an awakening. And if you could just share this out with one friend, that might actually help in this great awakening of people, not woke, but wake people up. So a man shot in Chicago was nearly killed. Now I don't know if he's going to make it out of the hospital for sustaining these these surgeries. He's going through surgeries because he was shot in the face, abdomen, arm, and the side, and he's undergone 4 surgeries, and he remains hospitalized after Friday's incident with this William Hunter guy. So William Hunter is now in bond court on a charge of first-degree murder, attempted murder. I'm sure it might go up if he doesn't make it out of the hospital to first-degree murder, right? If he doesn't make it. But there was this Good Samaritan who actually tried to de-escalate this argument that William Hunter was having with a meter maid. And this all happened in Chicago. There was this guy, and his name's William Hunter, and he was, leaning out of his minivan, yelling at this woman who was ticketing him. And he was yelling derogatory names at her and yelling at her. So this Good Samaritan comes up and he says, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he tries to de-escalate the situation. And then get this, the guy gets out of his car to try to calm the guy down from yelling at this meter maid. And then William gets out of the car, pushes him, lays hands on him, and then punches the victim in the face. The 2 men began fighting, and then all of a sudden he steps back, pulls a gun from his hoodie pocket, and shoots the victim several times. So very, very intense. And I'm going to say it, folks, don't try to be a hero in big cities like Chicago, okay? Because you will not make it. It's a war zone in Chicago if you were to try to be some sort of Good Samaritan in a city like Chicago or in a city. When you have a community surrounding you that is of like mind, and if it's a smaller town, then you're more likely to make it out of there alive. That's just the way I'm going to phrase this, I guess, because this actually is a viral video now going out there. It's making its round. There's this monster who tries to steal this 87-year-old woman's purse and winds up eating the pavement thanks to this Good Samaritan. So crime is on the rise. It has been since Joe Biden took office, 2021. Now, the stories I tend to bring you end badly, like the one that I just told you about, the Chicago guy with the meter maid. I don't know if he's going to make it out alive. 4 surgeries. That's not a great ending. That Good Samaritan did not make it out the way this guy did, who actually stopped this guy from stealing an 87-year-old woman's purse. So this story ends with a lowlife who tried to steal that 87-year-old woman's purse from eating it. He just gets slammed down onto the pavement. He gets a mouthful of parking lot. So the players here, the woman, her name is Pat. The hero is Deshaun, and there's Scumbag Jones. Okay. So he's the scumbag. Pat, she was doing her grocery shopping, no doubt buying ingredients to try to make cookies, maybe a gingerbread house for her neighbors and for her church, because, old sweet ladies, they do that kind of stuff. And then Scumbag Jones, he sees this 87-year-old woman alone, and in a moment of scumbaggery, stole Pat's purse. Stole the 87-year-old's purse. So Pat, naturally, she screams loud enough for Deshaun to hear. So Deshaun saw Pat screaming and ran towards Jones because he saw him running with the purse. He had obviously put 2 and 2 together, realized that Scumbag Jones, stole the purse. So he chased after him. And this story is from 2021. It's a real story. It's a true story. Now, it's a viral video, and I'm going to share it with the live streamers. You're not going to be able to see it. But you're going to hear the song "Try That in a Small Town" in the background here, because that's what the video, and this is what America is all about. Deshaun saving this old woman's purse. Let's take a listen.
Try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Around here we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't. Try that in a small town full of good old boys, raised up right. If you're looking
Somebody in that store. He came out the store because you were chasing him and you were on him.
Yeah.
And he was running as fast as he could.
Yeah, he
And he's probably never ran that fast in his life. And he's probably not appreciated the police showing up that quick in his life, which we didn't get there real quick, winky wink. You took and made what we call a citizen's arrest. And you make us very, very proud. Everybody, just not here, but everybody in the country, man.
Yeah.
And we're proud of you, and I mean that. And thank you for what you've done.
So there you have it, a good Samaritan in a small town. Deshaun, he got the recognition and approval of the county there. There's the sheriff, I'm assuming. I'm not sure exactly what county this was in. Definitely not Chicago, not Cook County. But moral of the story is here, folks, Deshaun, he caught up with Jones, body slammed him into the pavement with such ease that I'm telling you, Deshaun should probably be on like WWE or something. The cops took scumbag Jones away, and hopefully, I'm hoping that the cops tell his cellmates what he tried to do to this old woman, steal her purse. Jones was hauled off, and Pat, the old lady, she got some last words in. She said that she was very disappointed in him, and I like what she has to say here. Quote, I think I was a little hurt that he would do that. And she pointed to him, and he says, if you needed something, all you had to do was ask. And that really just blew me away. I was like, wow, this sweet little old lady would have just given you some money, man. And Deshaun, we don't have nearly enough good stories like this of people taking action when they see villainy afoot. Now, unfortunately for the man in Chicago, he saw villainy afoot and tried to step up and de-escalate a situation between this one guy and a meter maid, and he was sprayed with a bunch of bullets. And there's a reason why. It's because the Good Samaritan was not in a small town. You try that stuff in a small town, you are going to be met with the way Deshaun body slammed this guy into the pavement. You're going to be met with that, and you're going to be praised by local law enforcement in a small town for making citizens arrest and stepping up when you see villainy afoot. Do want to shift gears. Let's talk about Dean Phillips. So he is looking to primary President Joe Biden. He's looking to enter the Democrat primary for the 2024 presidential election. So I think that this is the Democrat Party's way of splitting the vote between RFK Jr. and Dean Phillips. They obviously don't want RFK Jr. to have 20%. That's what he's kind of polling right now. It's 20%, 70% is what a lot of polls say. I've seen some that are 60-30, which this just shows that they are scared. Phillips is unlikely to mount the primary challenge unless Joe Biden's health worsens or his poll numbers drop drastically, right? Neither does RFK Jr. unless Joe Biden has insane health conditions or his health worsens to the point where the American people just will not vote for him, or he, just doesn't even campaign. And I don't think he would ever drop out of the race. But Dean Phillips, RFK Jr., they aren't likely to win the nomination. There's super delegates. There's going to be a Bernie Sanders situation with RFK Jr., I think, where they just use the super delegates to steal the nomination away from him. But Dean Phillips, he's a Congress critter out of Minnesota, and he's a Democrat, and he's being encouraged to run. I think it's because they want to split that moderate vote. Phillips, he flipped a GOP seat in the state of Minnesota in 2018, and he was reelected twice, and he's on his third term in office. So I'm sure the Democrat Party has been sniffing around for kind of moderate people or people who have flipped GOP seats to try to take votes away from RFK Jr. And that actually brings me to another story, which I will hit on the other side here. I got to take a quick break. But RFK Jr. denied Secret Service protection. What? So, Secret Service protection for every major presidential candidate. There's a law out there that was actually created because RFK Jr.'s dad was assassinated as a presidential candidate. And he had filed for Secret Service protection, and Alejandro Mayorkas, Dorcas, denied him RFK Jr. And it's like, if anybody should have Secret Service protection, I would say it's RFK Jr. We're going to be talking about that here on the other side. Be sure to visit me on the stream, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Hey, if you're watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. That would be a great help to me. I would greatly appreciate it. We are going to be getting to RFK Jr. being denied that Secret Service detail. Also, I've got a story here about Kamala Harris not realizing that she exposed Bidenomics for being the complete and absolute failure that it is by saying, so Kamala Harris gets out there and she says that most Americans are um, close to bankruptcy. Like, if you have a $400 emergency, then you are going to go bankrupt. And I'm not disagreeing with that. I think that most Americans are in that situation. But she's so out of touch that she doesn't even realize that the reason why that is because of her and Joe Biden. And then there was a Friday news dump here where Joe Biden, he finally acknowledged his granddaughter, his 7th granddaughter. Then he freaks out on this reporter who asks about her. And, I'm going to play the first interaction we had between Peter Doocy and Joe Biden when Peter Doocy had asked about the granddaughter. He, at the time, was very upset. And he was like, it's a family issue. It's a family matter. It's not political and blah, blah, blah. Okay, but you made it political because all throughout 2020 and all throughout 2023, it seems like you are running on the idea that you are some sort of family man. And if you're putting campaign videos out there or having your MSNBC news media acolytes get out there and call you a family man, then that's up for grabs, dude. And I'm going to ask you about your 7th grandchild that you refuse to acknowledge. So we're going to be talking about that, plus Ron DeSantis hitting back hard on a reporter about this African American history lie. Ron DeSantis, he is in trouble here with this campaign. But if he were to keep up things like this, I think we would be able to see him boost up in the polls a bit. So multiple things can be true. There were no benefits to slavery. No one said anything about there being benefits to slavery, and Kamala Harris is lying when she said that Ron DeSantis wants school kids to be taught that enslaved people benefited from slavery. That's not true. That's not what the curriculum says. No, just like how it's not illegal to say gay in the state of Florida, the state also isn't teaching middle school students that actually maybe slavery wasn't so bad to begin with. No, they're not teaching kids that, okay, in middle school. The left and the media, I repeat myself when I say that, are running the same playbook they did with the Don't Say Parental Rights in Education controversy. Okay, the Don't Say Gay bill, as they called it, but it's not called that. It's the Parental Rights in Education bill. And I read the bill. There's nowhere in there that says that you can't say the word gay. Leftists lied about the Florida Parental Rights in Education Act, knowing that they could count on the media to swear by it and no one would actually read it for themselves. The media swore by it, claiming it was the Don't Say Gay bill. Conservatives pushed back on the media lies, actually. And they cited the bill, the text of the bill, and the media did some journalisming on the controversy surrounding that bill, the controversy that they created. But here we go again. We have yet another lie from the pits of hell. I'm just going to call it for what it is. If you're watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. Smash that like button. This is a lie from the pits of hell. Then there's one sentence out of this 200 item curriculum that talks about the horrors of slavery. And here's the one line out of the curriculum. Instruction includes how slaves develop skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. Okay, so Kamala Harris, she goes stampeding off to Jacksonville saying that middle schoolers are being taught that slavery actually benefited those enslaved. No. Um, William B. Allen, he's a doctor of African American studies and he's a scholar. And he developed the Florida curriculum and he said that that's misinformation spread by the White House and spread by Kamala Harris, that the vice president comments are categorically false and it never said that slavery was beneficial to Africans. What was said is that anyone who reads this will see with clarity that this is a case where Africans were proved to be resourceful and resilient and adaptive, and they developed skills which would serve to their benefit both while enslaved and enslaved and after enslavement. So coming up, I will be unpacking this Florida bill. Florida curriculum. It's curriculum for middle schoolers, and Kamala Harris goes out there stampeding off to Jacksonville, Florida, and starts making a fuss about this curriculum. And it's just a lie. It's a lie. Kamala Harris is trying to say that Ron DeSantis is trying to teach kids, middle schoolers, that enslaved people benefited from slavery. That is a lie from the pits of hell. Kamala Harris is lying when she says that Ron DeSantis wants school kids to be taught that enslaved people benefited from slavery. There were no benefits to slavery, and no one said anything about there being benefits to slavery. It's not in the curriculum. You have to read the curriculum. This is the same playbook they did with the Don't Say Parental Rights in Education bill, the Don't Say Gay bill, as they coined it. It's not. You can say gay, okay? Leftists lied about the Parental Rights in Education Act, knowing that they could count on the media to swear by it, right? And no one would actually read the bill for themselves. So the media swore by it, claiming that it was the Don't Say Gay bill, and then conservatives pushed back on the media lies. And they cited the actual text of the bill. And we find out that, yeah, you can say the word gay in the state of Florida, believe it or not. The bill actually doesn't say that you can't say the word gay in the classroom. Now, Kamala Harris, she's lying. And actually, I'm very disappointed in some of these GOPers who are jumping to attack Ron DeSantis. I get it. It's a GOP primary. I don't like Ron DeSantis for the presidency either. However, you can't side with Kamala Harris just because you don't like Ron DeSantis. Give me a break. So we are going to be talking about that here coming up in just a bit on the morning buzz, so you won't want to miss it. But I'm talking about RFK Jr. and how he was denied Secret Service detail. This is huge news. They're very scared that RFK Jr. is going to gain some sort of popularity. They aren't scared that he's going to get the nomination because we know the Democrat Party, the superdelegates, they steal elections and the people don't decide the actual nominee in the Democrat. That's why if you're a Democrat, I'm sorry, but you are an idiot. And when you vote in a Democrat election, like a primary, you don't even get to pick your nominee. Like, it's the most undemocratic process, I think, in American politics and American election cycles. It's the Democrat primary. You don't get to pick your own nominee. The super delegates get to pick it. They screwed Bernie Sanders out of his nomination. The Democrat Party did. They're going to screw Robert F. Kennedy out of a nomination. And in fact, they don't even want him to gain popularity. That's why they've got this Dean Phillips of Minnesota hopping into the race now. They're trying to split the moderate vote. RFK Jr. Was denied Secret Service protection, a resource provided to all major presidential candidates since 1968 when Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s father was assassinated during his campaign for the presidency. So this is a law. It expands the Secret Service detail, the protection, because this was all expanded because RFK Jr.'s dad was assassinated while he was a presidential candidate. So There were numerous requests to the Department of Homeland Security. And finally, they said, it's not warranted at this time, the Secret Service protection. This is because Alejandro Mayorkas is doing Joe Biden's bidding. They don't want him to have Secret Service protection. Now, this is despite RFK Jr. submitting the 67-page report, and he went above and beyond trying to prove that there were safety risks. Not to mention, you've got JFK's documents surrounding his assassination not being released to the public. They're trying to cover up for the CIA and the bureaucracy there and the institution. They're trying to cover for the institution because they had a hand in JFK's death. JFK his assassination. So 100-day or 120-day period, right? 120 days from the general election was the time at which RFK Jr. submitted his request for that protection, and it should be provided to presidential and vice presidential candidates who are major candidates. And I would say that considering that the law exists because his dad was assassinated, yeah, he's like the poster child, right, for this law, like this actual law that expands it to candidates. You're literally the poster child of why presidential candidates need protection, and you don't get protection. It's concerning. All right, I do have to take a break, but on the other side, you know him, you love him. Scott's Takes, he's back. Scott Robbins, the radio legend, will be joining me here on the Morning Buzz. I'll be back. Be sure to text in at 309-451-9299. Do you think aliens are real? Do you think aliens are real? We'll be talking about that here in the 8 o'clock hour. Plus, we'll be visiting with Regan Deering, who is running for Illinois State Representative in the 88th District. She's going to be joining me, so I'm excited about that. I'm going to be talking with her, I hope, about some carbon pipelines that are scheduled to come to the central Illinois area. That's in the 8 o'clock hour. Scott Robbins joins me next. Ooh, aliens, Scott Robbins. This is Scott's Takes on the Morning Buzz. I'm Kat Peterson, Scott Robbins, right over there.
Hey,
And
howdy.
I got to ask, do you believe in aliens, Scott Robbins?
You know, I heard you tease this. Do I believe in aliens? I'm going to give you the answer I give to everyone. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. I say this publicly. Because if the alien world is far more advanced than we are, and we have every reason to believe they are, if I deny their existence, I do not want these people, these figures, these creatures, whatever, visiting me at 1 o'clock in the morning, standing over my bed saying, hey, here we are. See, we exist. So I'm going to go ahead and go on record as saying, yeah, I think there's something going on out there. I mean, let's just take, for instance, let's just say there is a civilization that is 50 years more advanced than us. If you go back in this country 50 years, you wouldn't recognize it today because of technology advances, healthcare advances, all sorts of advances, right? That we've seen, some good, some not so good. But if they're 50 more years advanced than we are, my gosh, who knows? I mean, so I don't know, Kat. But again, I'm publicly, I just want to state I do, to keep them at bay in case they want to come knock on my door. Yeah,
See,
that's
I've
all.
got a wacky take on it, and I won't get into all of it, but I do think that the government they've got artificial intelligence and things like that has really advanced to far beyond recognition, right? And that is a non-human life form. I think that is out there. I just don't think they're aliens, and I think that the government wants to explain why suddenly a bunch of Christians are raptured. And they're gone, right? Because that's what I believe, right? The rapture of the church, you know, right? The rapture. They need to explain that. And the only way they explain that in the end times is alien abduction, right? That's where I'm not
gonna challenge you on that at all, because that's as right as anything else I've heard.
Yeah.
Trying to explain all this.
Yeah.
Although it is a wacky take, I'll give you that.
It's wacky.
Yeah. So if I leave, if the rapturous times come during my lifetime, if I leave, right, then that means that the people that are left are going to blame aliens for taking us. Is that that's your stance on this, correct?
Yep. And they want to start laying the groundwork. For
Well, they're not going to take responsibility on. They don't now. Why would they then, right? I mean, there's no responsibility in their lives. Nothing's their fault.
Yep.
It's all my fault or your fault or somebody else's fault. Oh man. I can't wait to hear the whole take though. That's coming up. Kat's going to go into more detail here. And this ought to be.
People keep asking me if I believe aliens exist, and I'm like, all right, brother. If you really want to know my take on this, you're going to have to buckle up and get your steel or your tinfoil hat and just wrap it around.
Right, because it's time to go. Yeah. No, it's that I have a friend of mine who's very sober guy, soberest guy I've ever met in my life. Who's driving down 74 late at night from Peoria to Bloomington. And he swears to this day that he saw an unidentified flying object. And again, this is a guy who I don't think, I mean, I've never seen him drink more than a beer. I mean, it wasn't like he was hammered or anything driving down the interstate, you know. No, he was a very sober dude. And he swears to this day that's what he saw. So who am I to challenge it? I don't know. I just leave it alone. Did you see the Cardi B thing, by the way, this weekend?
Oh, gosh, no.
You didn't see this?
But I'm worried.
Okay, so Cardi B, the rapper, is rapping on an outdoor gig, and there's the band behind her, and she's playing and all this stuff, and a guy throws a drink on her. Ooh. I don't know if it was water or what, but there's been a lot of this stuff going on where people in the audience feel that they can just do whatever. They can throw whatever or do whatever. And so she stops and starts yelling at this guy. The problem, though, Kat, is the music keeps playing, including her voice. So it was a track. She was singing to a track. And again, I don't have a problem with that if people admit that's what they're doing. I mean, this wasn't some Milli Vanilli thing where it was like not even her. I mean, she's actually doing the rapping, but people paid money to see her do this, and she's just lip syncing to a track. Now, that was the story in my estimation. You can talk about the guy throwing the drink and say that's awful, and we all agree on that. But that became the only story that had anything to do with this. When I'm watching the Sunday morning Talking Heads yesterday, a couple of them mentioned it. The gist of the story was this guy threw this on her, and she went after him. It wasn't the fact the track just kept playing in the background. which I thought was really amusing. But anyway,
the
yeah,
track
because
just
I mean,
keeps playing in the background.
yeah,
and
it
they're
just
like,
keeps
"Oh."
playing, and the singing just keeps happening while she's yelling at this guy for throwing a drink on her.
Speaking about singing, did you see this? And I'm sure this is going to blow up this morning. Toby Keith, they're giving him the same Jason Aldean treatment over that
Uh-oh.
song "Beers and Horses." Beers for mouth. Beer.
I know that song.
Beers and Horses. Yeah, they're saying that it's racist, and they're giving him like essentially the same Jason Aldean treatment. These leftists that are melting.
Isn't
down.
that song like 20 years old?
It's 21 years old.
I was going to say it's been around a long time. I'm aware of it. Yeah. I mean, so they're going to drag that back and say this is a, what do they say? Racist song now?
Yep.
Based on what? I don't know the song as well as a lot of people do, but
I don't
know
know.
what?
There's
Th-
like a
can I just-
reboot of Outrage when it comes to the TV. It was on the Stephen Colbert show.
Oh God.
In 2015, there was this outrage, but now they're bringing that outrage back about
Unbelievable.
that song because of Jason Aldean's song.
You know, it's a wonder Toby Keith's people aren't doing this, because what we've seen is once you start that nonsense, that the audience wants to hear what you think is terrible because they think you're a weirdo, and then so they start listening to it. It becomes a number one record, like Aldean.
Mm-hmm.
That record wasn't number one. Record's been out a long time, but all of a sudden we're told we can't listen to it or we shouldn't listen to it, and now all we want to do is listen to it. It's the old Alice Cooper theory. I mean, Alice Cooper once told me personally, and so I did have a moment with Alice Cooper, but he told me, he said, the whole bite the head off the dove and throw it into the crowd and that kind of thing, kill it. And he said, we never did that. He said, but I didn't stop people from saying it, because the more they said it, the more popular we became.
Mm-hmm.
And he was absolutely right. So these country guys will probably be out there fishing now for something that the stompy foots can start screeching about. And all of a sudden, a record that's been out for a long period of time becomes relevant again. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it can certainly work that way, can it?
Yeah.
Joe Biden's on vacation. Did you see this?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Biden's been on vacation 360 days.
Oh,
That's 39% of his time in office. He's been on vacation.
him and his turtle swim shorts.
What job can you possibly have where you could work out a sweet deal like this, unless your name's on the front of the company and you own it? That's insane. I want to get to this what's the guy's name? Senator Chris Coons, right?
Yeah, Democrat senator.
Yeah, Democrat senator. He was defending Joe Biden on the Talking Head shows this past week, and Joe's connection with his son Hunter, and he wants you to know he'll have none of it, because there's no smoking gun here. And listen to this. Here we go.
Let me ask you this. Do you think it would behoove the president for him to come out and say, hey, I had no business dealings with my son. My son's issues are my son's issues. Do you think he needs to say that more directly? Because there's a lot of people that believe something else would happen.
Well, let's be clear about that point, Chuck. There's been a 5-year investigation, 5 years, by a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney. This investigation started during the Trump administration, and they've come forward with not one shred of evidence tying President Biden to any of this.
Let me ask you this. Do you think it would behoove the president for him to come out?
Not one shred of evidence that ties President Biden to any of this? Who's the big guy? We know who the big guy is. Who's his son referring to when he says he's sitting right next to me? I want my payment. I want my money.
Father. He says that in a WhatsApp message to what's his name?
Are you going to stick with that insane story? And by the way, Chuck doesn't challenge him on it, because that's Chuck. He's not going to challenge him on it. Anyway, I think this is a great defense now. They just flat out say, well, there's no evidence, even though there's reams of evidence. So Devin Archer today, that is Hunter Biden's former BFF, and they were together, right, in business. They were business partners together on several things. Mm-hmm. He's going to spill the beans today to Congress, so this ought to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
News.
And well, it was supposed to be. I saw this. It was the U.S. Justice Department. They were going to try to jail Devin Archer on the
but apparently they can't even pull that one off.
Yeah.
Because people were like, wait a minute, what do you mean you're going to jail this guy so he can't talk? What the hell? What do we got here? Banana Republic? Mm-hmm. So apparently that's not going to happen now. According to a new study out, Kat, over a third of us have dreamed about climate change.
Not me.
Over a third of us have dreamed about climate change. It doesn't say whether it was a nightmare or whether we just dreamed about it, the climate changing. I don't know. but a third of us had. Now, the question becomes this: is there anything climate change cannot do? Huh? I mean, now that we're dreaming about it, for crying out loud, holy smokes.
What do you get when you add 23 genders and you do a sprinkle of abortion? Like, what do you get when you add all that
Yeah,
climate
a nightmare.
change? Yeah, I just don't understand.
Ford, by the way, is set to lose billions, 4.5 billion, because of the
Their electronic
EVs.
vehicles.
Yeah. So, I guess if you're
I saw it was
apparently
like
the
double from
resale's
last year.
apparently the resale's not very good on those either. Imagine that.
Hmm.
All right, Kat, have a good day.
You too, Scott Robin.
And it's going to be cooler today, though, right? So that's nice.
A little bit cooler than what it was.
Yeah, man, it was.
Don't blame a MAGA Republican today for the weather. It's not that bad
I went
out
to a
there.
baseball game Friday night, and it was like, ugh.
Oh, yeah, that
It was brutal. Yeah. All right. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later, Scott
See ya.
Robbins. See ya. Scott Robbins, Scott's Takes. It's every morning at around 7:35. We're going to be back here on the Morning Buzz. My take on aliens. And also, I do want to talk about Ron DeSantis just laying into this reporter about the lie that African-American curriculum in Florida says that actually slavery benefited slaves. No, that's not what the curriculum says. Kamala Harris is lying. I'll be unpacking that here next. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for joining me here on the Morning Buzz. You can see me live in the studio on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble. I'm everywhere. Now, there was all kinds of UFO congressional hearings. And look, folks, I mean, the Pentagon, there was a top official who had testified, and, he was saying that there was alien life or blah, blah, blah. And there was all kinds of these non-human um, and um, life forms. I mean, non-human life forms, I guess. And they were talking about this all last week. The news cycle last week was just insane. I mean, we had Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, his lawyer actually hitting a bong on his front porch, and then we also had the paddleboarder, the personal chef to Obama, drown. And there's some curious things surrounding his death, like the call log being left blank. The emergency call has no reason next to it, although they documented all the other 911 calls that came in that evening. There were a lot of things that were just bizarre last week in the news cycle. Now, my take, are aliens real? Are aliens real? If you're watching on the live stream, go ahead and throw it in the comments. Are aliens real? Uh, I'd love to hear from you. You can also text your answers into 309-451-9299. In short, I'm going to say no. Now, I have a very wacky take on it, so get your tinfoil hats out. But I am an evangelical Christian, and I'm very proud to say I'm an evangelical Christian, and I believe in the rapture of the church. What the rapture is where Christians are raptured. They're literally taken from the earth during tribulation, where tribulation, it's a 7-year period where literal hell on earth it happens for 7 years. And that's before Jesus Christ comes back, the second coming, end times. You can read Revelation if you're like, whoa, Kat, you lost me. This is for folks who have read Revelation and understand what the rapture is. Now, being an evangelical Christian, I look at this alien thing, and I think that the government is trying to create some sort of circumstances to make us believe that there's aliens that exist. Now, whether that be by put all kinds of life forms out, non-human life forms out there, AI, flying UFOs, whatever it may be, I think that they're putting it out there to try to lay some groundwork for an explanation when the rapture happens. Not if, but when the rapture happens. They have got to try to explain how all these Christians uh, left planet Earth, left the Earth, without, pointing to Revelation, pointing to the Bible, because they don't want you to know that Jesus is coming back. That's the whole thing, right? During tribulation, they want you to seek refuge and seek help in the Antichrist, which comes to power during the 7 years of tribulation. So they can't, let on that, oh, the Christians were actually raptured, Jesus is coming back, and I'm the Antichrist, right? That wouldn't work out so well. So they have got to, and I don't think they're doing it consciously, right? I don't think that the government employees, they know the book of Revelations, they know what they're doing. I think that it might actually be some sort of supernatural evil spirit working through our leaders to try to lay the groundwork out there to explain how all these Christians just whoop leave one day. I mean, we're going to be flying planes, and then the planes are going to crash. If you guys have ever watched the movie with Nicolas Cage, it's called Left Behind, and it talks about the rapture of the church. And there's buses that crash into things because Christians just are gone one day. So I think that this whole narrative around aliens, they are just trying to lay the groundwork out to try to explain how Christians are raptured. And they're going to try to say that Christians were abducted by aliens, rather than just coming out and saying Jesus is coming back and Jesus came for the church in the rapture. And this is Revelation playing out. So that's my wacky take on it. I've gotten a lot of people asking me, do you believe in aliens, Kat? No. Short answer is no, I don't believe in aliens. Long answer is Book of Revelation, and the government is laying the groundwork to try to explain how the Christians are raptured and just magically gone one day. Okay. Do you believe in aliens? Do you believe in aliens? Kat, the aliens are real. They are fallen angels. I've heard that too, Sherry. I'd love to hear more about that. We should talk sometime. I've heard about how those are fallen angels and how they are like almost demons. All right, folks, thanks so much for tuning in. Sherry, I like your take here. Fallen Angels, I've heard of that. Somebody just informed me I'm going to have to do some digging um, about John Burroughs and how he came into contact with some UFOs and aliens, and how he um, is kind of like struggling health wise after having this interaction with them. So, some people say that yes, aliens exist. I hope that there is alien life out there. However, until hard evidence is shown to the American people, I will continue to speak out about the issue with caution. I mean to say I would not take it seriously. So yeah, I think that this is all kind of a way for us to be distracted at some point. We got Joe in the White House. Does that count? Aliens? Now, the thing about aliens, if they did exist, most likely what the United States government would do would give them some sort of amnesty or some sort of refugee status, and then we would give them all kinds of health care, free health care, and we would probably equip them with badges and arresting powers over non-US citizens because yeah, that's just what we do. Despite knowing nothing about them, we would probably give them all kinds of health care. So we are going to be back talking about Ron DeSantis and how he hits back at this reporter pretty hard. And there's this lie out there. It's about the African American history lie. So there's this curriculum, and there's a line in the curriculum. And I mean, it's just terrible that we've got Kamala Harris out there lying about the curriculum in Florida. There's this line in the curriculum. I'm just going to quote it here. It says instruction includes how slaves developed skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. Now, people ran with that and they tried to say that, you know, Ron DeSantis, he's out there trying to get school kids to be taught that enslaved people actually benefited from slavery. That's not true. No. Just like it's not illegal to say gay in the state of Florida, the state is also not teaching middle school students that actually maybe slavery wasn't so bad to begin with. No, that's not happening. There was a doctor. He's a African American scholar. He's done all kinds of studies surrounding slavery, and he developed the curriculum. And he said that that was misinformation spread by the White House and by the vice president. She made some comments that were categorically false. The curriculum never said that slavery was beneficial to Africans. What was said was that anyone who reads this will see with clarity that it is the case that Africans proved resourceful, resilient, and adaptive. And they were able to develop skills which served to their benefit while being enslaved and after enslavement. So they were adaptive and they proved to be resourceful. That's what the curriculum is about. And it's a shame that we have people not only on the Democrat side of it, but GOP side of it lying and jumping to this attack on Ron DeSantis. There's plenty of wrongdoing, I think, on Ron DeSantis's part and on his campaign's part. I don't know, him siding with big insurance companies and raising the premiums of all of those Floridians after a hurricane and after a natural disaster. That's why, Ron DeSantis, that's a legitimate talking point. However, this, Ron DeSantis thinks slavery was good. That's a lie. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz, and Kamala Harris is out there lying again. She's lying her face off, and she's trying to say that Ron DeSantis wants school kids to be taught that enslaved people benefited from slavery and that actually, well, maybe slavery wasn't such a bad thing to begin with. That's not true. Okay, just like it's not illegal to say the word gay in the state of Florida, they're not teaching middle school kids that slavery was a good thing. The left and the media, I repeat myself, the left and the media, same thing, are running with the same playbook they did with the don't say parental rights in education controversy, the don't say gay bill, blah, blah, blah. Kamala Harris is out there and she is lying. There is a line in the curriculum that I'm going to get to here coming up in just a bit. It's one sentence from an almost 200 item curriculum. And the curriculum is about the horrors of slavery, actually. And there's been African American scholars and doctors, people who built this curriculum have come out and said that the White House and Kamala Harris are spreading misinformation when it comes to this bill or this curriculum. So we will be getting to that here in just a little bit. Speaking about Kamala Harris, I don't think she realized that she was exposing Bidenomics as the failure it is when she says that Americans are closer to bankruptcy than they ever have been in American history. Essentially, she came out and said that Bidenomics is a colossal failure, but I don't think she realized she exposed Bidenomics as a colossal failure. So she claimed that most Americans are in a terrible place, in such an economically a terrible place that $400, like an unexpected $400 expense, could send you into some sort of bankruptcy. And I mean, that's because of you there, Mamala. We'll be talking about that here coming up in just a bit. But right now on the line, you know him, you love him. He's the superintendent of the McLean County VA. That's Jerry Vogler. And this is our Veterans Corner. So, Jerry, can we talk a little bit about the Department of Veterans Affairs announcing here on July 25th, 2023, that it's going to conduct this scientific review to determine whether there is a relationship between three conditions: acute leukemias, chronic leukemias, and multiple myeloma outside of the head and neck, and toxic exposures to service members who were deployed in Iraq, Afghanistan, Egypt, Georgia, Jordan, Lebanon. Can you explain what this scientific review being done by the Department of Veterans Affairs means and what they're exactly looking for here, Jerry?
Yeah, this is a very important step that the VA benefit side is doing, and that's opposed to the VHA, which is Veterans Health Insurance. They're the ones that provide health care for the veterans. VBA is the organization part of the VA that processes claims for service-connected compensation and pension. This announcement that they're going to actually do a scientific review means that they have now collected enough data at the VA about these three medical conditions, two kinds of leukemia, and then multiple myeloma, which is like, it can be a skin cancer and that type of thing. They've gotten enough information on that now that they can do the scientific study that will help them determine whether those conditions need to be considered as presumptive from having been exposed to the carcinogens and so forth that were in the Middle East, Southwest Asia, and so forth. This is a tremendous step forward, because without the data in adequate amount, they can't really take any action that says yes, they are or not related to that service. This will speed up the process, and if those three additional conditions are determined to be presumptive, that means all that the veteran has to be able to do is prove that they were in the location where those carcinogens were present during their service, and it would be then presumed that those exposures were the cause of those three types of cancer. That's a big step forward, because without that, if they filed a claim, it wouldn't go anywhere, because there's no scientific data that says there's any service-connected relationship. One of the things that's really unique about this scientific study is that if they file either a claim or an intent to file a claim by August 9th, just in a few days from now, that they can have that, any back pay that would be awarded if it is eventually determined to be service connected, back to August 10th of this year. And it might take a year to process through a claim like that, but it would be back paid all the way back to August 10th. So veterans need to get out their VA Form 21-0966, which is the intent to file a claim, and that will put their place in line to have their case reviewed and determine whether it's service connected, and they would get back paid at that date no matter how long it took, as long as it's filed within 12 months. That gives them time to put their case together, get it submitted, and considered. So any veteran that was in the Southwest Asia area or any of those countries you mentioned, they should file that intent to file form. So it saves their place in line, and it gets the process started.
Interesting. Well, this is seems like a huge study. So do we know like when officially it's going to be done, or?
No, they really haven't announced the completion of the study because I'm sure there'll be a lot of left turns and right turns and going down the middle to look at all the different cases of things that are reported. But then they have to also look at those people that have the exposures but don't necessarily have those maladies to determine whether it's significantly more likely to have those maladies if they served than if they did not. So it's a process that can take a few months, or it can take a process that takes a few years. And that's why it's really important for veterans to get VA health care, because if they're treated for those type of things, that's a slam dunk as far as being able to prove that they've got the malady. And then, of course, their service record would indicate whether they were in the area where the exposure happened. So no question as to exactly when it's going to be decided. But with the data now being in, those scientific studies don't take that long, several months probably at most.
All right. Well, and then I see for our Veterans Corner today, we're talking about the Cambodia Prime Minister and how he has served for nearly 4 decades. But is he going to be reelected for another term?
Yeah, there's no question that Hun Sen is going to be reelected as the premier top person in Cambodia. Unfortunately, during his 4 decades, Cambodia has become more and more aligned with China rather than the West. Of course, Cambodia is right next to Vietnam, and their going communist was during that period of time in which the Khmer Rouge controlled Cambodia and killed hundreds of thousands of Cambodians who were more aligned with the West. As a result of that, they're communists, but they deal with the West as if they're not communists. He's 70 years old. Unlike most Western countries, however, it looks like he's going to get reelected and then hand the title down and the power down to Hun Manet, who is his son and is a graduate of West Point United States Military Academy in New York University with a master's degree and an economics PhD from Bristol University in Britain. So there's a hope, although nothing definite, that his massive exposure to Westernism, that he would maybe see the value in moving Cambodia farther toward the West than to China. That's key because of where they're located, right next to China and right next to Vietnam and so forth. That we don't end up having a large pocket of people that do not believe in Westernism and will do anything to bring it down.
Interesting. Now, we've got another thing here on the Veterans Corner I want to hit before we cut to break. Now, the VA, they've added another weapon to help veterans manage their pain. Can you describe this device and how it manages the veterans' pain?
About 4 years ago, there was the beginning of a nationwide, led by the VA, movement against the massive use of opioids as pain relief. A lot of veterans have had injuries and that sort of thing, that they have chronic pain. And unfortunately, opioids weren't really understood enough to realize the terrible negative ramifications of use of it, especially over long term. So the VA has been looking for alternatives to do that without having to use the opioids. This is a new one. This one actually comes in looks like in the pictures, probably about an 8-inch by 2-inch by 5-inch container. And it has a series of lightweight wraps that hook into this box that then hooks into the to the wall socket. And it can be used to treat shoulder, hip, and knee problems. And what it does is it uses a combination of really high-tech stuff with low-level lasers, LED therapeutic light, and electrical stimulation, which I guess I would refer it that it's very much like a TENS unit, which have been used for years and years and years. But they use it as a combination as to what therapy would work the best. And it may reduce the inflammation, which is where the pain usually comes from, but it also increases the circulation to offer an alternative to medication. The multiple wraps make it very flexible. It has been cleared through the central office of the VA. I'm not sure whether it's available here locally, but if they want it quicker, they should talk to their primary care provider at the VA and ask them about that. And if it isn't available locally here, it should soon be there. The VA continues to pursue an effective treatment for pain without the use of medications if they can. Medications have too many other ramifications and side effects.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and one thing I wanted to talk about before you leave here, Jerry Vogler, one of my favorite things about the Veterans Corner, the quote of the day that you've included here. Jerry, tell me about the quote of the day.
Well, America has always prided itself on independence and self-reliance as individuals, not just as a country. And I think this quote from Thomas Zaz, who probably nobody has ever heard of, but he's fairly well known within the literary community. I think he's an attorney and some other qualifications, but this is what he says. The proverb warns that you should not bite the hand that feeds you, but maybe you should bite it if it prevents you from feeding yourself. And I think that really hits it right on the nail about independence and self-reliance on an individual basis or as a country. When we become too reliant on the government, all of a sudden we expect the government to take care of all of our needs instead of being able to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. I love that quote. You should not bite the hand that feeds you, but maybe you should if it prevents you from feeding it yourself. I like that. Jerry Vogler, you have a great rest of your day, and thanks for joining me here for Veterans Corner.
You too, and enjoy the cooler weather.
Yeah, it's a bit cooler today, a bit cooler.
Yep.
All right, folks, we are going to be back talking about Ron DeSantis and his curriculum coming out of the state of Florida surrounding African American history. And he hits back at a reporter here, folks. And I've got the audio clip, and this is a perfect Ron DeSantis moment. Where he hits back at a reporter for lying and for saying that this curriculum in the state of Florida is, slavery is actually beneficial, and that's what the curriculum says. That's not true. Kamala Harris was spreading misinformation last week. So we're going to unpack that here on The Buzz next. Good morning, folks. And if you're watching, go ahead and smash that like button. Now, we are going to be back talking about Ron DeSantis, but also I am going to be talking about Kamala Harris and Bidenomics. So one thing that I want to throw up there about Bidenomics are just the facts surrounding it, okay? 56.3% of Americans disapprove of Biden's handling of the economy. Now, inflation is up 2 times higher than what it was when Joe Biden took office. When you adjusted for inflation, these annual incomes drastically decreased under Joe Biden, so we're not making as much money. Jobs that came back from the pandemic don't count as new jobs, okay? Although the Biden administration will try to have you believe that. Unemployment actually ticked up in this latest jobs report with 440,000 newly unemployed people. So unemployment's not looking great. And we've got Kamala Harris out there talking about how Americans are, just so close to bankruptcy if they have a $400 unexpected expense that could actually send them into a bankruptcy. That's what Kamala Harris said in her speech at this pro-abortion forum in Iowa. And she was talking about how many Americans are suffering. And I think she's forgetting who's been in charge for the last 3 years. She, without realizing it, I think, exposes Bidenomics for the failure that it is. Uh, so, my question to Kamala is like, do you think that this is a re-election talking point? I don't get it. We're also going to be talking a little bit about RFK Jr., Joe Biden finally recognizing his granddaughter, Navy. Now, this came at the 6 o'clock hour Central Time, Florida, right prior to that time. Joe Biden has not recognized or acknowledged, really, his granddaughter, his 7th granddaughter. Now, all this past week, MSNBC, the media acolytes, they've been saying that Joe Biden's a family guy, right? And he wouldn't do anything, or he would do anything for his son, Hunter Biden. And he's just this family guy. And back in 2020, that was like a big point that he ran on for his presidential campaign in 2020, is that he was a great papa. And now he's finally recognized her, but it was like a news dump at like 5 o'clock on a Friday. So we're going to be talking about that here on The Buzz. Joe Biden, he's claiming that it's not a political issue, it's a family matter. And that he and Jill, they just want the best for all of their grandchildren, including Navy, the seventh grandchild that he's ignored prior to 6 o'clock on a Friday. This past Friday, he dropped the news that Navy is one of his grandchildren. And I've got that story here. Because guess what, Joey? Guess what? You made it a political issue when you decided to run back in 2020 and in 2023 as some sort of family guy, like you're a family man. No, you're not a family man because there's documented evidence of you showering with your little girl, Ashley Biden, according to her own account and in her own diary, where she discloses that that made her feel uncomfortable. I would say that that makes you not a family man and you not acknowledging your granddaughter. But finally, he's acknowledged her, and there was this news dump that happened on Friday at about 6 o'clock. So we're going to be talking about that. But prior to me taking the commercial break here on Cities 92.9, you guys can always see me live in the studio, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. I'm there. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this podcast out with your normie friends. You can also find the podcast on Spotify. I'm there on Spotify and on cities929.com. So you can always find The Morning Buzz with Kat. You can type in Kat Peterson 929 into the YouTube search bar and find me and subscribe to the channel. So now I want to get to Ron DeSantis. That's what I was talking about prior to taking the break. Ron DeSantis hitting back hard at this reporter. And I love Ron DeSantis when he's angry because that is authentic Ron DeSantis. Now, there's something going on with Ron DeSantis in his campaign. Vivek Ramaswamy is leading him in a poll that was taken in Ohio. Ohio is Vivek Ramaswamy's home state. Ron DeSantis can't even win his own home state when it comes to the polling here. Donald Trump is just going away with this thing. He's polling very, very high. Ron DeSantis, I mean, polling in single digits in some areas of the nation. So now I like when Ron DeSantis is angry because he's just an angry guy. He's kind of an angry dad, right, with his New Balances. And I think that is something that he really has to hone in on and harness, right? And really focus his authentic self in this campaign because he's not being authentic. He's trying to act like Donald Trump 2.0, and it's very clear. And people don't like it. He's not reading the room well. This is a beautiful case where Ron DeSantis just hits back at a reporter and he's the angry dad Ron DeSantis. There's multiple things that can be true. There's no benefits to slavery. There were no benefits to slavery. No one said that there were benefits to slavery. Kamala Harris is lying when she said that Ron DeSantis wants schools to be teaching. Ron DeSantis does not want schools to be teaching kids that enslaved people actually benefited from slavery. That is not what the Florida curriculum says. Just like it's not illegal to say the word gay in the state of Florida, it's not true that students, middle school students, are being taught that actually maybe slavery wasn't so bad to begin with. That is not true. They are not teaching that. The left and the media, but I repeat myself when I say that, are running the same playbook they did with the Don't Say Parental Rights in Education bill, okay? The Don't Say Gay bill. The leftists lied about the Florida Parental Rights in Education Act, and they knew that they could count on the media to swear by it, and no one would actually read the bill for themselves. The media swore by it, claiming that it was the Don't Say Gay bill, that you couldn't say the word gay in the state of Florida. Conservatives, they said that's a bunch of phooey, and we pushed back on the media's lies, citing the actual text of the bill. Now, the media did some journalisming on the controversy surrounding the bill, and that was the controversy that they created. So you're starting to see this play itself out again with this bill. Here we go again. Here's Ron DeSantis, and you guys can see him in studio if you guys want to see the clip itself. Him lashing out at this reporter who tried to say that he was pushing a curriculum that said that slavery was actually beneficial to slaves. Here we go.
No, it's not. And the curriculum is very clear. You have, I think it's like 200 plus pages of all kinds of stuff that you can't read that. Have you read it?
So what's your opinion?
Have you read it?
I'm asking your opinion.
But you haven't read it, so I'm just making that clear. That makes it very clear about the injustices of slavery in vivid detail. So anyone that actually read that and then listens to Kamala would know that she's lying. And that particular provision about the skills, that was in spite of slavery, not because of. The AP course has made that same point. Other courses have made that same point. Nobody said anything about that. And Dr. Allen and those people will say, look, this is what was used post-bellum when these folks were doing stuff. So that was very, very clear. And I would just say, people can read it, but they did a very good job on it. And there can be no confusion about where they would come down on that.
That is Ron DeSantis. That is his authentic self. And I love what he had to say there to the reporter. He goes, have you read it? Have you read it? Now, here's the part where the left took it out of context and it caused Kamala Harris to go out there stampeding off to Jacksonville, Florida, and to spread misinformation. There's one sentence of this 200-item curriculum, and the curriculum focuses on the horrors of slavery. Now, I'm going to read the curriculum exactly the way it says. The way it reads is this: instruction includes how slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. Now, Dr. B. Allen, who was one of the ones who created the curriculum, and he's an African-American scholar who developed the Florida curriculum itself, said that this was all misinformation spread by the White House, that this was, saying that slavery was actually beneficial to slaves. No, it wasn't. The vice president's comments were categorically false. That's what Dr. B. Allen, the creator of the curriculum, said. He said it never said slavery was beneficial to Africans. What was said, and anyone who reads this with clarity, it is the case that Africans proved resourceful, resilient, and adaptive, and were able to develop skills which served to their benefit both while enslaved and after enslavement. So they are taking this way out of context, the curriculum. It's campaign season. And you can see that the left is taking this out of context, like they did with the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. However, this go around, because it's a campaign season, there's some GOPers who are jumping to attack Ron DeSantis on about this curriculum, Byron Donalds being one of them. I would say that's not cool. GOPers, look, I get it. There's a lot of things that you can attack Ron DeSantis on. The fact that he is running as Donald Trump 2.0 and he's not being authentic with people. The fact that he's taking donations, and that his donations, like his average donation is like tens of thousands of dollars, whereas Donald Trump is taking the average donation of like $30, something like that, right? So you could also even look at big insurance companies. Has sided time and time again with big insurance companies, and he has signed a law that makes it near impossible for regular people, Floridians, to go after insurance companies and to sue them for wrongdoing. So there's a lot to go after Ron DeSantis on. This is not it, because this whole thing about the curriculum being pro-slavery is just categorically false, and shame on Kamala Harris for spreading misinformation. Now, what I want to get into, I've got to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk about this guy who tried to steal this 87-year-old woman's purse, and he wound up eating the pavement, because there was this Good Samaritan guy who wound up saving the day and getting this woman's purse back. It's a viral video because there's this new song. It's called Try That in a Small Town by Jason Aldean. And he has lyrics about sucker punching an old lady. And this is a really fun video. We're going to play it. Plus, there's a Democrat representative. He's eyeing a plan to primary Joe Biden in 2024. Now, he's been dubbed like a more moderate pick over the president. However, I think the DNC is in on it. The Democrat Party is in on throwing this Dean Phillips, that's his name, the Democrat representative running for the Democrat presidential bid, right? He is being thrown into this to try to take away votes from RFK Jr. They're freaking out about RFK Jr. because he's polling pretty high, folks, in popularity wise, right? He's winning the popularity contest, and I think he's gonna win the popularity contest when it comes to Joe Biden versus RFK Jr. RFK Jr. was recently denied Secret Service protection as well. So, and this Secret Service protection is supposed to extend to major presidential candidates. In fact, the bill that extends the Secret Service protection was made because RFK Jr.'s father was assassinated when he ran for president. So we're going to be talking about all of that and more on the Morning Buzz. As always, I'm live in studio on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. You can be part of the show by commenting on one of those channels, but also by texting in to 309-451-9299. I'll be back. Woo! Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for joining me. Now, first, I do want to get into this monster who tried to steal this 87-year-old woman's purse. This is a viral clip going, it's making its rounds this morning because it's got that music behind the video. It's tried that in a small town, Jason Aldean. And this was a story from 2021. Crime has been on the rise throughout 2021, and stories tend to end very badly with the bad guy getting away with it, right? But this story ends with a lowlife who tried to steal this 87-year-old woman's purse, eating a mouthful of parking lot. Like he eats the pavement thanks to this good Samaritan who saved the day and got the woman's purse back. So we are going to be talking about that. Plus, a Democrat representative is now eyeing the primary for the Democrat side of things. He's eyeing to primary Joe Biden, and he's been dubbed a moderate candidate, a more moderate pick over Joe Biden. Now, I think that this guy, Dean Phillips, is his name, the Democrat. He's getting into the Democrat primary now to try to take votes away from RFK Jr. because they're freaking out about RFK Jr. gaining popularity. He's polling in a lot of places at 20%. So 70-30 is a lot of what I've seen. 20%, 80% Joe Biden, right? So I don't know. All I know is that it seems like they're freaking out about RFK Jr. and how he's gaining popularity. It's not that he's going to get the nomination, okay, folks, because we've seen before that the Democrat primary is probably the most undemocratic process. They're super delegates. They stole Bernie Sanders' nomination from him. So RFK Jr. not going to be the nominee for the Democrat Party. However, I will say that he is gaining popularity, and they don't like that. They don't even like him being popular with anybody in the Democrat Party. They want to stop him. And I don't know, him not being given this Secret Service protection, although the law lays out that, hey, major presidential candidates, which I think that RFK Jr. is like the poster child for this law. Essentially, the law was created and extends the Secret Service to presidential candidates because his father, RFK Jr.'s father, was assassinated while he was running for president. So, and they denied him Secret Service. So we're going to be talking about all of this and more ahead on the Morning Buzz. Now, I came across this story about a Good Samaritan on CWB. If you guys haven't seen that or gone to that webpage, I highly recommend you do for all your Chicago news. I do. And I saw this guy. This did not end well. I want to start with this story because, try that in a small town. It's very, we get the lyrics, okay? If you try stuff like robbing an old woman in a small town, you are going to be met with a punch to the face, or you are going to be met with eating the pavement, as this guy in this video did. His name's Deshaun. He saved this woman named Patty. But if you try this kind of stuff in a big city, you get away with it. And this is a clear case. Prosecutors say a Chicago man shot and nearly killed a Good Samaritan who tried to de-escalate an argument he was having with a meter maid. So the Chicago man was having an argument. His name is William Hunter. He's 54 years old. He's currently in bond court on a charge of attempted first-degree murder. So he shot this guy in the face, in the abdomen, in the arm, in the side. He pretty much sprayed him with bullets. He's undergone 4 surgeries. We don't know if he's going to make it out of the hospital or not, but this Good Samaritan saw this guy yelling at this meter maid who wrote him a ticket, right? And this meter maid was being called all kinds of derogatory names. So this guy comes up and he says, "Look, man, he's just trying to do his job." And he attempted to calm the guy down. But then William Hunter, the guy who was being a complete freak, pushed him with his hands and then ultimately punched him in the face, and then stepped back, grabbed a gun out of his hoodie pocket, and fired multiple shots into this victim. So this is a story where if you try that stuff in a big city, you get away with it. And if you try to be the Good Samaritan, most likely you're going to die because it's a war zone. Chicago is a war zone. Now that brings me to this story because this monster who tried to steal this 87-year-old woman's purse, it was in a small town. It looks like it was in a small town. This guy actually winds up eating the pavement thanks to this good Samaritan who saves the day. So the players here are Pat, she's the woman, the 87-year-old, Deshaun, who's our hero, and Scumbag Jones, who's the scumbag. So Pat, she was doing some grocery shopping, no doubt probably buying some cookies, ingredients to make cookies or gingerbread house to make for her neighbors or for her church because, that's what sweet old ladies do. Scumbag Jones here. He saw this 87-year-old woman alone, and in a moment of scumbaggery, he stole the woman's purse. Pat, then she screams aloud, and she screams loud enough for Deshaun, our hero, to hear. And Deshaun, he saw the lady screaming, and then he saw Scumbag Jones running with the purse, and he put two and two together, and he chased after the scumbag. So this is a story from 2021. I want to make that clear that this isn't something that happened recently. It's in some rural county, I believe. Now, this is a viral clip that's going around, making its rounds on social media because it's dubbed to the music of the song Try That in a Small Town. That's Jason Aldean's Try That in a Small Town. It's a very fitting soundtrack to this video surveillance footage of him chasing down this guy, this good Samaritan. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Of our own, you cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't. Try that in a small town full of good old boys, raised up right. If you're looking
in that store. He came out the store because you were chasing him and you were on him.
Yeah.
And he was running as fast as he could.
Yeah,
and he's probably never ran that fast in his life.
No.
And he's probably not appreciated the police showing up that quick in his life, which we didn't get there real quick, winky wink. You took and made what we call a citizen's arrest. And you make us very, very proud. Everybody, just not here, but everybody in the country, man.
Yeah.
And we're proud of you, and I mean that. And thank you for what you've done.
So I'm not sure exactly what county that's in. I'm trying to figure it out. It's definitely not Cook County, right? But Deshaun, he was celebrated by the sheriff, it looks like. He caught up with this scumbag Jones, who stole the woman's purse, body slammed him down into the pavement with such ease that I think that Deshaun should probably go for a spot in the WWE. But the cops took scumbag Jones away, and there I hope that the cops inform scumbag Jones's cellmates that he tried to assault an elderly woman. As Jones was being hauled off, Pat, she actually got some last words in. She said, look, if you needed something, all you had to do was ask. Isn't that something? She was really disappointed with him. And this poor little old lady, she would have just given him money anyway. Right? If he wanted money. People like Deshaun. We need more people like Deshaun. We don't have nearly enough good stories about good people taking action when they see villainy afoot. And I'm not suggesting you take action when you see villainy afoot in places like Chicago, because you are not going to be seen as a hero. In fact, you probably will be seen as the bad guy in that situation. But I gave you an example out of Chicago where a good Samaritan, he did not. I don't even know if he's going to make it with his life for acting like a good Samaritan and trying to break up a fight between a meter maid and some wacko. So there's that story for you. I do have to take a break, but when we come back, we are going to be talking a little bit about RFK Jr., how he was denied Secret Service detail, although he's like the poster child. Like if anybody's going to get Secret Service protection, it should be this guy. You're literally the poster child of why presidential candidates need protection. We'll be back here next. Hey, if you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. Smash that like button right now. That would be great. We are going to be talking about RFK Jr. And, there's this Dean Phillips guy who is looking to primary Joe Biden. And I hate to say this, but I think that the Democrat Party, they are pushing Dean Phillips out there. They're encouraging him to run because they want RFK Jr. to lose some of these polls. They want him to poll lower, and the way you do that is by splitting that moderate vote. So RFK Jr., he was recently denied Secret Service protection. He is also going to probably have to deal with another primary challenger because Joe Biden is sick of him polling at 20% a lot of the times. There's been polls where I see him at like 70-30 or 80-20, right? Where he's gaining popularity. Now, we know that RFK Jr. would never be the Democrat nominee because RFK Jr. Is not the pick. Okay. There's these super delegates. They did the same thing with Bernie Sanders. It's a very undemocratic process. Actually, in California, Republicans are considering going towards a more super delegate type process, which would be huge for Ron DeSantis, big for Ron DeSantis in California, although that would be kind of sucky for us as Republicans because we don't want a system. We don't want a system like that of the Democrats where the people don't get to pick the nominee. The nominee is picked by the party. That's just the way it goes. Some big people with deep pockets get to pick the nominee. Now, RFK Jr. being denied the Secret Service detail, I don't think that's a coincidence that he is also being, the race is getting more crowded. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens here. I can't believe that he was denied the Secret Service detail. That's concerning. Because his father actually was assassinated. Since the assassination of his father in 1968, candidates for presidents are also provided Secret Service protection, but not to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I also would like to point out that we still don't have the JFK documents surrounding his assassination. Now, is that because they're trying to cover up for the institution? Because at this point, anybody who was involved in the assassination of JFK, they're all dead. Okay, so that means they're not protecting people, they're protecting the institution itself, meaning that the institution at a very systemic level had something to do with the death of JFK. So we still haven't gotten those documents. The administration behind concealing those documents, none other than Joe Biden. Kamala Harris in the news this morning, she doesn't seem to realize that she exposed the Joe Biden failures, right? She said that Americans are very close to bankruptcy. In fact, we're like $400 unexpected expense sending us into bankruptcy, which I'm sure you understand. If I had to dish out just $400 as an unexpected expense, that would really put a damper in my coffers, in my savings. That would be very. I view money in a very different way than I think most people my age, or even most people view money. Money is kind of like food, like where you have it, you need it, but it just comes, it just happens, right? It just happens, it comes, it goes. It's like food, right? It comes, sometimes it goes, right? You know what I mean? It's just a life function, but um, Americans are really dealing with Bidenomics, and she actually throws it under the bus. And I don't think she realized she did when she said that Americans are in a terrible place financially. Wow, RFK Jr., he was denied Secret Service protection. Get this, the law that expands Secret Service protection to every major presidential candidate, that was created because RFK Jr.'s dad was assassinated when he was a presidential candidate. Okay, so like he's like the poster child uh, for this law, like literally the poster child for this law, and they denied him Secret Service protection. That's Alejandro Mayorkas. They created a 67-page report detailing out all kinds of security and safety risks and they were security and safety risks aside from just your regular death threat. So Kennedy is RFK Jr. He is really trying to get some Secret Service protection, but they won't give it to him. And now there's this Dean Phillips guy who is looking to primary Joe Biden, and he's said to be some sort of moderate pick. He's a 3-term Democrat out of the state of Minnesota, and he's eyeing a run for the White House, according to a report. And he's been dubbed this moderate candidate. I think the Democrat Party is in on that, and what they want to do is split the vote between RFK Jr. and this Dean Phillips guy to try to weaken the popularity and the excitement really surrounding RFK Jr. All right, that's the news for today. Thanks so much for joining me. We're going to do it all again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. As always, live in the studio, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. You can follow our social medias there. You can also share this podcast out with your friends from cities929.com or Spotify. As always, I love you, and stay tuned because Glenn Beck is up next after me, then Dan Bongino. Then we also have Sean Hannity and Mark Levin. You won't want to miss Scott Robbins either tonight at 8 o'clock for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Bye-bye. Love you.